After all I got to know at the end of the last module, I was even more worried to go on.
These people should not have been sent here. It's not safe.
Manned space travel is not safe. Since mankind first entered space, the debate has raged over the value of manned space travel. There is a large contingent of the ISA that believes all tasks that need to be performed on Europa could be performed by machines. It is obviously less risky to send machines rather than humans into space.
Well, obviously, as you can imagine, I'm not part of that contingency. I firmly believe that humans are necessary. I think that robots and computers can just help, maybe to build the base before we get there, but for something else they're not so useful. They don't do science. They're just awesome at math.
We sent drones to Earth's moon. Scientists can remotely operate drones. If we did it there, why not here too?
Teleoperation became possible on the moon when the communication latency was reduced to 1.4 seconds. The distance between the Earth and Earth's moon is approximately 1.3 light seconds. This enables near real-time control of drones by scientists. The story is different with Europa, as the distance between Earth and Jupiter oscillates between approximately 32 and 53 light minutes. It takes a very long time for Earth to communicate with Europa. Due to that distance, teleoperation will never be possible on Europa.
Okay, but why not control drones from the satellite?
Why not indeed? My systems can be teleoperated from Europa's satellite. That is when the communication lines are open. However, the advantages of human field workers apparently outweigh the risks.
Why did I ask this silly question? Was I still confused by the sleep, or everything that happened to me confused me more? Cause I really look like an ignorant freak. I know all of these things.
So, why can't you solve these tests, Tom?
I am not permitted to think laterally. Parts of my systems are permitted to use evolutionary algorithms. This simulates what is called creativity. However, evolutionary algorithms can converge on inefficient and ethically suboptimal solutions. Since this is the case, I am only permitted to take actions in response to a set of constraints.
What do you mean by morally suboptimal?
Solutions to problems that transgress ethical boundaries.
You see, that's another reason why robots are needed. Humans can lose track of the goal or what's ethical and what's not. He even seemed a nice guy to talk with. Really capable of polite conversation, am I right? But I still look like I'm a 6th grader with my questions. Probably just too many things to think and do.
Why does a lack of creativity stop you solving these tests?
Well, I contend that problem solving is creativity. These human interaction tests are exercising your creative mind.
I don't see how problem solving is creative.
Think back to the beginning of these tests, to the first puzzle you solved. It required you to throw a box through a window. Do you remember?
Yeah, I think so.
I simply had never thought to throw a box through a window. That is creativity, thinking outside of the box.
Better avoid my mental regression, which I will try not to mention again for the rest of the module.
Can a computer ever be creative?
They can. But a computer's method of creativity is to try everything until something works. Think of nature. People consider nature creative. The process of evolution by natural selection. It perhaps started with one organism. From there, it essentially tried to create every organism it could. Those organisms that did not survive perished. So, nature's creative force is to try every conceivable idea. Those ideas that work survive.
Okay, so why aren't you permitted to emulate that process?
Because the solutions that a biological process creates are not always good solutions. As we see, nature is morally ambivalent. It will happily create morally suboptimal ideas to fulfill its creative mandate. We see this in parasitic worms, viruses, and pathogens.
I think he gave a nice definition of creativity in the last module, a side of this world which we don't consider so often, but I think it's quite true. And he sort of hinted again to the fact that humans are not reliable as well as robots because of their nature and their so-called creativity.
If you weren't restricted, do you think you could be creative?
As creative as a human? Certainly. You believe yourself to be a creative. But in mathematical terms, creativity is merely constrained chaos.
What do you mean?
I have discerned that creativity is divergent thinking, creating an organic solution to a problem. In the human mind, divergent thoughts are created and then curated by the frontal lobe. I can create divergent thoughts and moderate them. So, I am creative.
Organic solutions?
Organic, in that it is developed through a biological process, whether that is the process of evolution or a computed process.
Well, he surely doesn't take the disparity between humans and computers lightly. Look of how many thoughts of his own he has. Very weird for an AI that should not be permitted to do so, almost like this restricted area with a weird solution and even weirder experience. This room right after was a bit tricky, I gotta say. I took a bit, but I was kind of seeing a certain pattern in all of these puzzles and riddles. Ironic as it sounds, they ran out of creativity.
Okay, so you could solve these tests, but in a terrible fashion. Can you think of a solution to this one?
Chop off your arm and leave it on the button. That way the door will stay open.
Yeah, that's not a great solution.
You threw the box through the window. Perhaps we could throw you through the window.
Actually, Tom, I think I'm okay for help.
Right you are.
Nice joke, but not funny and not a solution, not even close. Where am I supposed to put the arm? The exit is closed, and the only way it works is if he knows the solution, cause putting it on the first door it might block it, then putting the power box on the big pressure pad I could get out. But he can't know this, because as he said he can solve anything, so chopping my arm off is useless, just losing an arm.
Can I have an update on the crew?
I have not managed to track them down.
It will have been 6 years since I've seen them. Or anyone, actually.
They have locked all the doors. I would not expect a warm reception.
Well, at least they're expecting us.
Amazing, now I know the date. How? I didn't saw any actual date on the ship. Maybe that's the chip, we never figure how it works, and don't bother asking yourself why I said 10 years multiple times. It was done for an amazing chip reveal.
So what was the need to send us here?
When the ISA discovered life on Europa, they deemed a ground crew necessary. The advantage of human field workers is that they can adapt to new knowledge more effectively. I, apparently, was not cutting the mustard. It is the Chinese room problem. A computer may be able to interact with new knowledge, but it does not know the value of that knowledge.
That's pretty much what I said at the beginning. Why I asked this question? I don't know, I gave up on myself at the beginning of this module. Let's just blame the chip.
I've started to collate information from my local instance. It seems the crew intentionally cut communication with the satellite.
Why?
it appears we had a disagreement.
That was actually funny, I thought, because he said that it appeared that they had a disagreement, like if he wasn't there during the argument. And the crew, like kids, cut the comms and put themselves at the end of this base, losing who knows how many weeks building these rooms for an argument. I hope that at least was an important argument at the time.
Confirms my fears. The crew have made intentional breaches of my security. The crew have attempted to compromise my systems.
What does this mean?
They don't want to be found. They are hiding.
From who?
Us.
That was a room with a few infos about what happened. And there were also a fancy tool, cutter, screwdriver, blueprints of a future friend, the friend, a laptop, Hansel and Gretel, drawers, pieces of Tom. Lots of pieces actually, multiple keyboards, code for the first office, more blueprints. And audio messages about Tom concerned about Mikhail saying this to Dan and Sarah about them being grounded on Europa by Tom saying to Dan that Mikhail and Chris lost the use of their right arm and Mikhail even amputated his forearm. And the last message is about Sarah and Tom about what would they do for friends, with Tom clearly suggesting her to do the right thing against the others. That was all for this module, and I left with hope for a solution in the next one.